Thank you, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Teams Nation, and welcome to my session, Create Solutions for Microsoft Teams using Microsoft Lists. Before we jump into the details of the session, let me introduce myself. My name is João Ferreira. I'm from Portugal, and I'm an Office Development MVP, and I've been working with Microsoft technologies for the past 10 years. And throughout this time, I wrote 2 books, one about Microsoft Teams and another one about Microsoft Lists. And today I will show you how you can combine both platforms to create solutions for the enterprise world or for education that do not require developers, and everyone can easily create them without the need of writing a lot of code, and things will continue to be functional and super useful. So with this said, just a brief introduction on what Microsoft Lists is for those of you that are new to Microsoft Lists and are not well aware of this new tool inside of Microsoft 365. So SharePoint Lists is an evolution of the SharePoint Lists. Microsoft Lists is an evolution of the SharePoint Lists that exist in SharePoint since forever. And now lists have a dedicated application with a central location for you to access to all lists spread across SharePoint and across your OneDrive, your personal SharePoint site where personal lists can also be stored. It's a flexible data storage container, so you can store different types of data, including files, and you have the flexibility to create your own schema. You can even connect 2 different lists one to the other without the need to be worried about the connections that typically need to happen in classic databases systems. So this is super flexible and allows you to create things that were typically made on spreadsheets or managed on paper. So all of that combined is Microsoft Lists. And if you don't know how to access Microsoft Lists yet, there are a few different ways of doing that. But the best one is to look for this icon in the list of applications in the Microsoft 365 apps list. And this is the icon of Microsoft Lists. So today's session will be focused on a specific scenario. I will not be showing a lot of PowerPoint slides, and I will not be covering a lot of the basic concepts. This will not be an introductory session. We don't have time to go through all the concepts. Instead, I will explain you through a scenario how things can be converted, in this case from paper to Microsoft Teams. So I want you to introduce you Gino, a college basketball coach. This story is fictional, even though Gino is one of the best college basketball coaches of all time. And Gino has an idea of modernize the way he communicate with assistant coaches and the players throughout the season. And since the college is already in Microsoft Teams and they already have a team in Teams, Gino saw this as an opportunity to solve a problem and to create an online platform to manage the team. This will include to manage the team for each season, adding all the players, their names, their positions, their heights, and other details. Create a central location with the game calendar, so they can easily see what are the next games and the previous ones. The same thing for game results, and most importantly, the game statistics. And the solution that Gino thought about can be represented here by this database schema with 3 tables. Each one will be a list in Microsoft Lists. So the first one is the players list. Second one, the games, and the third one, the statistics. I have this image here to illustrate what the statistics mean. So Gino and the assistant coaches were creating this statistic paper during the games, and then they were sharing it with players. And the idea is to create a dynamic thing inside of Microsoft Teams so players and the coaches can easily see who were the players that played in a specific game, how many points they scored, how many steals. Everything will be there in front of their eyes, and you will be able to filter by game, by player, compare players without the need of using paper. And that statistics list has components from both of these lists. So if you look here to this paper, the statistics area is this thing here with all these small squares. Then there are the players and the information about the game at the top and the final score. So all of this can be migrated to Microsoft Lists and Microsoft Teams using this structure. So let's jump into Microsoft Teams and let's see how this solution can be implemented. Then this can be applied to other scenarios, to enterprise scenarios, but the basic concepts and foundations that I will show you today are the important things for you to build solutions on top of Microsoft Teams using Microsoft Lists. So I will quickly bring up here Microsoft Lists. If you never open Microsoft Lists, this is the PWA version of the Microsoft Lists. It's actually connected to my tenant, so there are a few lists here already. It's divided in 3 different sections: new list, favorites, and recent lists. And for this demo specifically, I already have created the list, and they have data in them, so I can explain you what is what and how things are connected together. So let's start by seeing the players list. So each player in this list is defined by the default title column that it's used to store the name of the player, a photo, the number that the player uses throughout the season, its position, and its height. Obviously, this could contain a lot more information, like the phone number, like the email, whatever other personal details. We can throw them here, and that is super easy. And the only thing that needs to be done is click here in Add Column, select the type of data that you want to use to add a column, and then fill out the missing information for each one of the players. There's a GS column here that's an auxiliary column that I will use later on, but it's not related with the data structure of the table itself, but we will see in a minute what is used for. Then the same thing happened for the games, and again, it's defined by its title with the name of the two teams, the result, the date, the location, and if it was a win or a lost game. And like the other one, there are a couple extra columns here. These are calculated fields. They don't need to be, or they cannot be modified using the list form. They are generated automatically when this information is filled. So when a new game is added to the list, it is added with a title, a date, and the site, and then later on it's updated and it's added the final result, and if it was a win or a lost game. And that complexity of having to edit the game can be easily simplified by customizing the forms that Microsoft Lists has. So if this list needs to be modified twice. One when the game is added, and another time when the game ends. We might need to format the form, and that's what is in here. So this form was formatted to show two different sections, and one is the new game data, and then there's the post-game area. So when you click in one of these forms, one of these entries, you will see that this is already filled. If this was not filled yet, you would be able to add the results, and the calculated fields, you are not able to modify them. So this is included in the platform by default. It was something that in the past required extra tools from Microsoft. It's still possible to do that with Power Apps, but now with Microsoft Lists, the layout of the forms can be easily customized with JSON using this option here. Don't be afraid of the JSON. It's not that complicated, and Microsoft in the documentation has a lot of examples from where you can grab samples and then refine them. And there's also a huge repository on the PNP GitHub with a lot of samples managed by the community. So this is the example that it's created in these three sections. So the first one, second, and then the calculated fields. Moving forward to the third list, we have here the statistics with all the information, and there are two important types of information here that you should be aware of. They are not displayed by default in Microsoft Lists, and those are the lookup column. So in here, I have the statistics for each game. I have this list grouped by game, and I have information that comes directly from the players list, and here I have information that comes directly from the games list. This information is the one that is stored in the player and game lists, and the only thing that needs to be done when filling this information is select the player and select the game, and things like the number and the final result is added automatically to the list through the lookup column. So this is the way Microsoft lists enforce relationships between two different lists, and this is the way that information that is spread across two different lists becomes together and available in a central location. So this specific list, as I mentioned, the information grouped by game, but just to show you how this works, I will go here to this game label column that comes from the games table, and to group the information, I will select here the group by label, just to show you how things look without being grouped. This is how the statistics would look like if the group functionality did not exist here. So if you have a lot of data about different topics inside Microsoft Lists, it might be better to group it by something meaningful, so you see it's separated and you will be able to collapse and expand individual chunks of data with one click. So let me group this again by label. And let me show you how you can collapse and expand the information. There's another thing here that it's important for this context of the statistics table. All these columns that are just numbers, they include a sum of the values of each column. So each game has 200 minutes because there are 5 players playing, and this is the number of minutes. So you can easily see if the information that is in the table is correct or not. And most importantly, you will be able to get the number of total steals and 3-point shots and all of that. So the sum is one of the things that you can do, but if you select one of the columns and go to the totals, you will be able to get all of this information. It might not make sense in this specific scenario, but on other scenarios, you may take advantage of the average or maximum or minimum values of a specific group. And once you group this and once you start creating totals in your list, if I go all the way here to the bottom, just to show you quickly how this is then represented, there's a final line here after all the groups that has the values for the overall content that exists inside of the list. So this is the structure. This is some of the formatting that was added already to the lists, and this is what will allow Gino to bring this information back to Microsoft Teams. Now, let's see how the team is structured in Microsoft Teams already. So the team is already here. In the is this one here, women's basketball team 21-22, and there are quite a few channels already here. There's the general channel, and then a few private channels for coaches and scouting and sponsors. So players and coaches do not see the information that they are not supposed to see. But in here is where all the lists were created. So behind a SharePoint, behind a team in Microsoft Teams is a SharePoint site. Lists are created in SharePoint sites, even though there's Microsoft Lists now. So all the information is stored here, the team structure, the lists, and now the only thing that we have to do is to connect Microsoft Lists and the lists we already have to the Teams environment, so everyone can get access to data. And that can be done in a few different ways. And I will show you how, for example, we can add the players to the general channel. Sorry, I'm with the coaches channel selected. This is a different story because private channels have a different site collection, and the lists are in the main site collection of the team, and we will go there in a minute. So I will start by adding the lists application in Microsoft Teams to Teams, hit the save button, and from here I'm able to create a new list or add an existing list. Since the lists were previously created, I will select the existing list, and the first one that I will do is players. And for players, you will see that the information that it's displayed here, it's exactly the same one that we've seen in the Lists PWA application. So there's the name, the photos, but this might not be the best way of seeing all this information. So there are alternative ways of displaying this, and Microsoft has the gallery view that allows you to easily switch and change the way things look like. And this is how we can give more emphasis to the photos to better understand what player is who. And then we have the number, the position, and the height. But if we want to add or remove extra columns that might exist or may not exist in the list to these cards, that can be done as well through the interface. So the only thing that needs to be done is then to format the card to show more or less fields. Another thing that can be done here is the filtering. So let's see that I just want to see the forward players. So I can go to the filter section and select just forwards, close this, and as you can see, this information gets filtered, and now you can see that it's shown here with this filter icon, meaning that you are not seeing all the information, and the filters here show that there's something that it's applied to the list. Now, if I want to go back and see the entire information, I can as well remove the filter. As you can see, when I filtered, I lost the tiles view, but if I want to define it as the main view for the list, I can easily do it by selecting the gallery and then save the view as the all items view. That is the one that it's defined as default for this specific one. We can also switch it to other views, but now I will be able to refine and use the refiners here, and I will not lose the tiles view, and I can see clearly the pictures and the same information that was shown as a list. And if I want to see something in detail, the only thing I need to do is click in one of the items and I can access to the information, add comments to the player item, and even mention other users. In this particular scenario, Gino and the other assistant coaches will be able to mention the player directly if they need something from the player to get updated in this field, and the player will be notified that there was a mention in this list item. So this information is all connected to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So it will automatically generate notifications when the users are mentioned and tagged here in a comment. Going back here to the lists, then another thing that needs to exist here is the game calendar. If you remember, the one of the requirements of Gino was the game calendar. Again, there's a way of easily showing calendars now in SharePoint and in Microsoft Lists, and now as well in Microsoft Teams that not makes use of the Teams calendar. So since Gino wants to keep track of the game, the score and all of that, and all that information exists in a games list, what I will do here is select the games list. And the games list, as we've seen before, includes a column that has the date. And with Microsoft Lists now, you are able to create calendar views. I already have one here created, but I will show you the process. And to create a calendar view, there's one mandatory thing that needs to exist in the list. You need to have at least one column of the type data. So when you click to create a new view, select calendar. I will hit here. I will provide here the name calendar, make it public so everyone can access to it. And once you select the calendar, there's the start and end dates for the calendar. By default, every single list includes the created date and modified dates of the item, and those columns are also available here in this view. But what we will use here now is the date, and this date is the same value for the start and end of the game, and that's what we will do here now. And I will hit the create button, and the information you see here will be transformed into a calendar. Now, to see the details of the games, you just need to select the game, and it is shown in here, showing the game that the hour for the game and the name of the two teams. And then if I want to see the details of the game, like we've seen with the players, just by clicking in the element, we can easily see the details. So this is how we can, with a single list and making use of the views, create the information that different views for the information that allow us to see the results, and at the same time get the calendar that allow us to easily see when are the next games and what were the previous games. So the third and final list that we've seen is the statistics, and like we've seen in Microsoft Lists, and just to show you that it works in a similar way, I will grab the Microsoft Lists here and add the stats. And like we've seen in the PWA application, the same information, the same grouping that exists already in the view, it's in here, and I can easily do filtering like we saw in the players. But in here, one thing that you might need to do, and since this is a lookup column from another table, you might need to, if you want to use a lookup column, you might need to go here to the filter by to be able to see it if it does not show up immediately in here. But even regardless if it shows or not immediately here in the filters, you are always able to go to the column and select the filter by. If I want to filter by a specific player and to see how the player performed in the games throughout the season, I can easily come here, select the filter, and I did a mistake and click in the wrong place. All right, it's back to the grouping, and here I will select, for example, this one here, and when click apply, I can see just the individual statistics for each one of the games the player took part in. And if I want to add other players, I can do it as well by selecting other player, and this way I will be able to compare the information of both, and still I have the information of the sum of the number of points, of the number of minutes of both players combined, or a single player throughout the season, just by looking to this area over here. So this is the solution already in place inside of Microsoft Teams using Microsoft Lists. And to reach this point, until now, the only code that had to be written was the code for the game swarm to separate the information that is used into different, into separate times. So the new game and the post game. And this was the only code that had to be written. Everything else is easily implemented and achieved through the interface. The only thing that has to be done is create the list, select the place where the list needs to be saved, and then start adding the columns. Now I will move to something that looks a bit nicer, but requires a bit more knowledge in terms of JSON formatting, a bit of HTML and CSS. So this looks awesome, it works. But now let's move this to the next level, and let's create refiners for the games and for the statistics with different layouts that will easily show the important information, while at the same time will act as a refiner. And to do that, we will have to use SharePoint. And this is the SharePoint site behind the team. And in this, let me zoom here just a bit so you can see it. And this SharePoint site, I already have this page with a picture of the team. And what I want to see here is the statistics, and I want to be able to refine them by player. But I want to get my refiners in a nicer way. I want to see the number of the player, I want to see the face, and I want to see the name. So to do that, and using SharePoint, we can implement it using a default SharePoint web part called lists. And for this particular scenario, we will need two. So let me add one here, and let me add another one here. The lists web part goes directly to the site collection where the list where it's added and gets all the lists that exists in the site collection. And here we have just the three ones that we've been seeing throughout the demo. And the stats is the one that will be used in this side. And in this side, I told you that I want to use the players. So I will select here the players list. And since this will be mainly to consume information, I don't need to get the command bar in the CL option, so I will hit apply. And the same thing on this side, I don't need the button to add or modify information, so I will get rid of that. And as you can see, now I have my statistics here and the list of my players here. But if I select this player, it doesn't do anything here still. But this web part allows you to create a relationship between both web parts in the page. And to do that, the only thing that needs to be done is enable the dynamic filtering. And this dynamic filtering maps information from two different lists, and they don't even need to be connected. In this particular scenario, they are lookup columns from one list to the other, but the only thing that needs to happen, it's a match between the value of the two columns. So in here, I will select the player column. So the player will be my filter, and the list that will be used to be the filter is the players. And as we've seen, the title column is what is being used to store the player name. So here I will have to select the title. And once I hit the apply button and come here and select one of the players, the information automatically gets filtered on the left side. It's fully functional. It's just using what Microsoft provides out of the box, but this filtering is huge and might not be the best thing to use in a scenario like this. So before the session, I've built a custom list formatting using JSON, specifically for filtering, showing the photo, the number, and the name of the player. And that's what I'm about to apply here. So if I go here to the view and select the filters and hit the apply button, as you can see, I get all my players, the same information. I will quickly hit here the players, the republish button, so you can see how it looks like and how it works. So I can even maximize this to get rid of the menu. And now if I select the players, the information gets filtered. So it's faster to and more intuitive to use than the filters that exist in the list application in Microsoft Teams. But as you can see, it shows the filter icon as we've seen before, so you can easily see what is being filtered in the list. And this, in this case, it's being done using this list here. All right, now that we have this together, it's in SharePoint. So now we have three different applications: SharePoint Teams and Microsoft Lists. But this can be all surfaced in Microsoft Teams. So I will go back to Teams, and to add this to the team, the only thing I need to do is click on this SharePoint application, and I will select the game stats page, hit save, and automatically it will add my page to the tab. And the same thing that I was doing in SharePoint can be done now inside of Microsoft Teams. And we have more information or a better way of seeing information to filter the content. So just to show you another example, and before quickly go through the code, this can be also done with the game results. So if I, instead of lists, select here the games, I've selected here, I added here a similar view for filters, and this is not required. I will hit apply, and I can also apply dynamic filtering, but instead here, instead of the player, I will filter by game on table games, and the column is title. All right, click apply. And now the same thing happens. If I filter by a specific game, I get the information just for that game in the main lists. So, and I can easily and at the same time see the game, the result, and also the filter, and then the same information is repeated here, and the statistics are available here. So, as I mentioned, to implement this, it required a bit of code. It's nothing too complex. It's, again, JSON and CSS, but it's also possible to do that using Microsoft Lists out of the box. There's no need for you to install any application to build this JSON. So if I go here to the view selector, click the format current view. Not this one. First, I need to select the filters. And now I will click the format current view. There's this editor where you will find the JSON that is being used here. It's just 74 lines of code to transform the information we had before into something like this. Again, if you are not familiar with this, a great starting point would be the PNP GitHub repo. If you want to start with list formatting, what I recommend you to do is, and let me select here the all items. What I recommend you to do is start by using the editor. So if I click in the format current view, there are formattings that you can apply to the list using simple rules like the one that we have here. And at the moment that you start editing and configuring this, you will be able to switch into the advanced mode and see the code that is being generated behind the scenes. So if I go here to the design mode and if I select here a column, for example, is equal to number 3, all right, and number 3 will be displayed in green. All right, if I want to see what was the code behind the scenes that generated this, I will be able to switch to this advanced mode and learn from here. So it's a great way of getting started. But again, if you want to get started with formatting, the PNP GitHub repo for view and column formatting is an awesome place for you to get started. We are almost on top of the 40 minutes time for the session, but there's another thing that I want to show you still that can be achieved and implemented using Microsoft Lists. And to do that, I will quickly switch here to the players list. And I will open it in SharePoint so I can get the link for the list. And one thing that I mentioned in the beginning is that there's an auxiliary column in the this list, and that column is used for coaches to define before the games who will be the players starting each game. And I already have here a view created, and this view, it's a board view that easily allow the coaches to move the players to different columns as they will start playing or in the bench, or if they will not be used in the game, they will remain in an unassigned column. So to use this in Microsoft Teams, we will copy this link. This is not a public view. And I also mentioned that the coaches have a private channel. The list will not surface here in the private channel because private channels have its own site collection. And if I try to add in an existing list, it will not surface here, but we can use a SharePoint link for the players. And now using the game start, we will be able to do this configuration directly from Microsoft Teams and define the starting team. Okay, we have 5 to start. Let's add another 5 to the bench, and this will be the team for the next game. And the coaches will be able to easily see the start team, who will start in the bench, and the players, if they want to, from the general tab from the players list, they will also be able to access to this information by switching to the game start view. All right, so this is everything that I had planned to show you here. Actually, there was another small thing that I want to show you just before we finish, and it's related with adding information to all these lists. The forms are available in the list directly. So if I go here to the stats or to the games, for example, I have here a new button, a new item to see the form, but there's an alternative way of getting the form always available and always present in Microsoft Teams, and that is a workaround. Is not included in the lists application by default. But if I go here to Microsoft Lists to the games list, and if I click in the new button, this allows me to copy the link for this specific form. And what I will do now is add in the coaches tab a new tab here in the coaches channel. And instead of adding a list, I will add a website instead. And I will type here new game URL. All right. And now every time I want to add a new game, the only thing I have to do is click here. And then once I fill this area here, hit the save button, and this game will be added automatically to the list without the need of clicking in the list and then clicking in the new button inside of the list. It's a nice workaround. It might not make sense for all scenarios, but for some of them, it totally makes sense, as the adding information to the list is the main thing that it's done, and you can access to the form with just one click without the need to first open the list and then access to the form. So this is everything that I had to show today. I don't know if there are questions in the chat.
We've had a few. Yeah.
All right.
So if we just go back to the beginning, we're looking at simple ways to make sure the list's available to all employees. Obviously, you were creating your lists inside the team, inside the SharePoint site, so that means they're not lost.
Exactly. So I didn't mention that, but when you create a list, let me get back here, you select the place where you want to store it. So here in this Save To, you have two different options to save a list. One is My Lists, and for some reason, it's not showing the list of sites. But trust me, if this was working properly, there would be a list of sites here. And those sites can be Teams in Microsoft Teams, or can be simple SharePoint sites that are not connected to Teams.
Yeah, and if you're starting in Teams, obviously you can create your list from there,
exactly.
or from SharePoint. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So people are then asking if there's an easy way with Sway and other products as well. Unfortunately, I was looking at the roadmap and I couldn't find anything, unless you know of anything different.
I'm not aware. No.
So with the filtering, as you were demonstrating the filtering, people were looking for it to dynamically select the items they were searching for. Now, I believe if you select one of the suggestions, it ticks them, but otherwise you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't do the dynamic filtering like Excel.
No. Yet, it might come.
Fingers crossed. And then obviously with lists, it's quite it's relatively straightforward to use the templates, but if you've built up your own list or library, people are asking if there's an easy way to copy that to a new one.
There is, and if you live in the ecosystem when creating a new list, you can start by an existing list. But this might be a problem if the list is in a site collection where not all the users have access to. The alternative would be, and this is still in preview, I believe this was not globally released yet. This is the custom templates for the organization, and this allows you to have a template. We could easily transform these 3 lists as templates. So next season, when Gino starts a new team for the new basketball team, the 3 lists would be displayed in here. They can be trimmed and displayed to specific groups. The downside of this is that to add the lists here currently, it's required PowerShell. There's no graphical user interface. On my blog, handsonlist.net, I have a PowerShell snippet, a PowerShell script that does the save and adds the list here, all in a single script. So if someone wants to give it a try, first, if you don't see from your organization, it's because the preview, it's not added to all the users in the tenant, and you need to wait for this to be globally released. If you see this, then you can use the PowerShell script and add your own lists in here. The main difference is that when you select one of the templates from Microsoft, you will be able to preview the information here. But when you select a template from your organization, this gets empty just with the columns at the top, and there's no demo data in the template. But views, custom formatting, whatever you have defined in the list, all of that will be added here. So things like the filters formatting that I did in SharePoint, that I used in the SharePoint page, that will be added to the template automatically. That's super cool.
But correct me if I'm wrong, do we have that same functionality for libraries? I think it's only with lists
no,
at the moment, isn't
for
it?
now, it's just with lists, yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously the links that you mentioned, the repro for the specific example, and obviously if you can drop the link to your blog in the chat as well, that would be
I will
much appreciated.
Let me quickly so this is the post that I was mentioning, and this is the script. It has everything that you need to get, including the colors, the icons that lists uses by default, so you don't have to worry about writing any of that information. You just need to follow the instructions of the script, and you will end up with this here. And I also have a video explaining the process. So this is one of the things. I'm posting now in the chat. The other one, it's here in the samples and solution. And let me search by lists. And there's column samples and view samples. So I will get the generic link for both. And when you click in column samples or view samples, for example, you will be redirected to the GitHub. Another sample that I recently posted here is a to-do list using Microsoft Lists. And just to show you how this works, you select one folder, and inside of the folder you have the description of everything needed to implement these lists, and the code is here in this JSON file. So super easy to get started. You might need to create the lists manually, but then applying this and start modifying things, it's super easy. And there's nothing that can go wrong with the list. If for some reason you break the JSON, you will not lose the access to the list or to the data. You can always delete the JSON, and you will see the default view from Microsoft Lists showing all the data you have there prior to the formatting.
Perfect, thank you. There might be one or two other comments or questions in the chat. If I could ask you to follow up on those, and then everybody, if you can have a look at the feedback links as well. Thank you very, very much. I really enjoyed that. That was great. Thank you very much.
All right. Don't forget to rate the session, and if you want to get in touch, you can do it using my email, joffre@hands-on-tech.net, through Twitter or through my blogs. Sarah, thank you so much for your wonderful moderation. Thank you all for being here in the first session of the day. Wish you all a great event, and let's see some other great sessions. Thank you all. Bye-bye.